Okay, so I've got a little bit of time, and I actually wanted to, well, I've been wanting to introduce movie reviews for a while, so this one's going to be kind of the first introduction. If you are part of my main audience who are here for headphone and audio reviews, let me know in the comment section if you want to see more movie reviews. This one's going to be a little rough because I'm kind of on a time limit. It's going to kind of be open format and not really too many jump cuts or anything. That being said, I've had about a week to go over this film in my head and really think about it. I saw it when it came out on Friday. I don't like it. I actually think it's a really boring movie. I felt like it was a completely fragmented plot. There were like things that should have made up the entirety of the film, and this part's going to be spoiler free, but there were parts that should have made up the entirety of the film that actually only ended up being like a small chunk. And then there was just like 3 or 4, or maybe even 5, if you really think about it, sections of just like these fragmented plot lines that they had a few lines of dialogue that really kind of explained how they were strung together, but it didn't feel really like one congruent, smooth story. And from a storytelling perspective, from a director perspective, that's a huge problem. This could have been due to the fact that they don't have a consistent director. I think they went through 3 directors. I think there were 2 directors and they got fired in the beginning, and then there was Ron Howard. I'm not sure. And I don't know if it's responsible for the reshoots or just how Ron Howard chose to take the direction of the plot. Now, to get into spoilers for a second, so this is the official spoiler warning. What this story was about, if you haven't already heard, is basically the build-up to make Khan the character who he is in the prequels, or I'm sorry, in the sequels 4, 5, and 6. And if you've never really noticed, he's a lovable character, but he's kind of a cynical bastard. He's very like, no, it's never gonna work, but you know, screw you, I'll do it anyways. And we kind of love him for that, right? That's kind of what he's known for. It's okay, it's not that big of a deal. And in this, he's much more hopeful, and the girl he's kind of like in love with or whatever ends up betraying him, and another guy ends up betraying him, and pretty much everybody in this movie betrays him except Chewbacca. So you can kind of tell how his cynicism is starting to lead into his character development. But this whole movie, I feel like the big fragmented part that I think this whole movie should have been about the Kessel Run. Because that was really the only information about the Kessel Run that we have, at least in the movies, is just the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs. So you have a time or distance limit, whatever they're considering it to be in the Star Wars universe, and the name of a run. So it's like a famous thing, right, in a certain amount of time or a certain amount of distance. I want to say a parsec is an actual distance. So like in real life, it's an actual unit of measurement for distance, but in Star Wars, the way they say it's like a form of time. I'm not really sure on that still. But what should have happened, at least in my opinion, they should have stretched the Kessel Run out to be the whole movie. And I don't think the Kessel Run should have been what they made it be. I think they should have made it much more involving and much, you know, a much larger portion of the story. Now, I kind of want to half say that, and the other half wants me to have them stay away from movie or from Star Wars films that take place mostly in space. A good example of when this doesn't work is The Last Jedi. Most of that movie is filmed, you know, on a carrier or another big starship or something like that, and only small portions are actually filmed on planets. And it just kind of feels like this ongoing, like on the run type of thing. And after a while it gets old having that storyline kind of repeat itself and repeat itself and repeat itself. Now, none of these issues really mattered. To me, the biggest issue with this movie was the fact that this felt like a generic action movie with a generic plot, with generic scripting, with good actors, although albeit it seems a bit miscast. But it's a generic action movie through and throughout with a Star Wars skin on it. You take a gun out, you put a blaster in his hand. You take a car out, you put a speeder in his hand. You take a plane out, you put a ship in their hand. And it just feels just generic. It's just, where are we going next? Okay, go blow that shit up where are we going next? Go blow that shit up. Where are we going next? Go blow that shit up. And it was just checkpoint after checkpoint after checkpoint after checkpoint. Everything, well, not everything, but for the most part, things were extremely predictable. Especially all of the betrayals. If you're gonna have a betrayal, do it right. Do it so that not only does the main character not see it coming, but the freaking audience can't see it coming. You have to build it up and build it up and build it up so that the audience thinks that they're going to be there, but gives them evidence that when you look back, they're surprised. Think of The Prestige. That's a great example of not really necessarily a betrayal, but a film that had a lot of trickery to it. And at the end, when they do the big drop and the kind of the big reveal of the characters, you're actually taken aback. That's what should have happened, and that's what should happen for betrayals in movies. But the way that they chose to play this was completely obvious to the audience, and for that it felt really non-immersive. So I guess that's going to be my whole review of this. I didn't like it. I felt that the story was fragmented. I felt like the acting was good, but not the characters that each individual plays, except for Donald Glover as Lando. I thought that was incredibly well cast. But the rest of the cast, and outside of Chewbacca, of course, it's hard to fuck that one up. But the rest of the cast, I feel like, while played well, didn't fit the characters that they were supposed to be portraying. The script was literally, at times, me and my girlfriend were turning to each other and predicting like the next line that they were going to say. And we did that time and time and time again. And a script like that should never, ever be predictable. Especially with a big budget movie like that. You shouldn't have like generic cliche responses to things. So I felt like the scripting was poor, the acting, while good, was miscast. The story was completely fragmented. Visually, it was of course stunning. It's a high budget film. You can't really expect much more for that. But I just felt very lackluster about this film. I felt that it was not something that I can recommend. It was disappointing as a Star Wars fan. It made me actively unexcited for the next Star Wars movie. I honestly thought The Force Awakens was okay. I thought Rogue One was dark and twisted, and I liked it for that, but I didn't really enjoy the film, if that makes any sense. I didn't like The Last Jedi, and now this is just like the final drop in the bucket. Is that even a phrase? I don't know. Anyways, guys, I didn't like it. I would wait to see it until it's out on DVD or Blu-ray, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Let me know if you like reviews like this. Stay safe. Don't do anything your mom wouldn't approve of. My name's Josh. Bye-bye.